Hello.
Hello.
Hey, we've got a bunch of students already in the waiting room. This is awesome. We're not going to bring them in just yet because we are going to do our little intro. And I am Nicole from the library. We also have information Jason, also from the library. We have library Ross Martin. And tonight is Research Rally, and we are talking about citations, right?
Let's get excited.
All right, very clever, Jason. All right, we've got some extra people. Okay, so I'm going to start loading our students into the stream.
Let's go.
All right, we've got a few. They've been here. They're ready. They're ready to get credit. So we'll do some citations.
Keep your eye on the road there. Whoever's driving there, be cool. Keep your eye on the road.
Okay. All right. All right, so I'll just take care of this. We got a few waiting, and so I'm gonna go ahead in the private chat. If you get bumped out of here, if you're on your phone, if you're in the car on your phone at Research Rally, and you get bumped out of the stream, go ahead. You could go to Seminole State Library at YouTube or Seminole State Library on Facebook to watch and interact, whatever you prefer, whatever works for you. And we'll, mark you down. If you need your credit, we'll get that taken care of. Just comment in on one of those places if you get bumped out or if you can't get in here, because this is like a limited access stream. We can only fit 10 people total in here. So so we're trying to work it with the people. So thanks for your patience with us as we, become rising streaming stars here at Seminole State College in little old Sanford, Lake Mary, Florida. All right. So Jason, I see you have Bianca, you can't hear anybody?
Uh-oh.
All right.
I thought she can hear us earlier. All right. So maybe you could troubleshoot that. And then Ross, how do you want to start? Do you want to talk about, we're talking about citations tonight, and maybe we should talk about why we use citations and maybe some kind of real world scenarios. Like if you're mailing a letter to somebody, I think the name and address needs to be pretty important. Otherwise, that person's probably never going to get the letter, and so on and so forth. And then maybe we can look at some examples. But you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I always love to talk about the why behind citation, because I think most of us, when you hear you have to cite your sources, right? Like, it's because you're doing an assignment. But I think citation has a much bigger purpose in our lives than just getting a grade on an assignment. That's good practice for doing things, but you always want to have a source to support your positions, your ideas, or your arguments on that. Like, whenever you're discussing something with someone in real life beyond an assignment here, you want to be able to back that up with some evidence, right? Like, you want to say, well, I think this because I saw it somewhere else. And that's what we're doing when we cite our sources, is we're giving our audience all of these different avenues where they could explore. You could say, well, I learned this from here. If you want to learn more, well, here's where you go. Or, you might say, well, hey, if you want to verify my claims, like, here's the facts, like, go check them out yourself. And I think that's one of the big things that I don't think it's communicated enough when we're talking about citation is like, why are we even doing this? And there are many, many reasons why you cite things. Obviously you're crediting the authors of it. That's everybody wants their work shared, and that's how those ideas spread and all that kind of stuff. But there are numerous ways we could talk about why you cite things. Those are just where my mind goes immediately.
Yeah, and I think this is really important, because, like, if students have enough to juggle on their plate and they're in the learning process, it's like, if you don't understand why you're doing something, it's so much more frustrating to learn it, right?
Right. And just to take a step back, what we're talking about here is going to be a citation, which is going to be the indication in your paper on where you got the information from. So when we say citation or reference, that's what we're talking about. So let's take a big step back here. You're going to have to do some research papers. You're going to have to be asked to locate, evaluate, and then use needed information. And we want to know, everyone wants to know, where did you get that information from? And so it isn't easy enough to just say the internet, right? Professor, I got it from a Google, right? That lacks any specificity at all. And so, as Ross was saying, other people want to find out where you got the information from, because maybe they want to learn and they want to continue following that same research. Plus, it also reinforces your argument and your credibility when you're able to share information that you've found and vetted and verified that it's good and credible, and use that for your purposes, because they say, oh, they use that. Oh, okay. And so you kind of know the conversation is ongoing. And remember, whatever you're making, whether it's going to be a research paper or a presentation or a speech, this is new knowledge that you are creating. Think about it. Your research paper did not exist before you wrote it. So when you're piling all this information together, you can't just go, oh, I don't know, I got it from Wikipedia. Why? Because where on Wikipedia? Who, where? And we'll talk about Wikipedia another time. I'm just using that as an example. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we say citations, or you cite, which is a truncated form of citation. You cite a source, or you provide a reference. I just wanted to share with you some of that because it gets kind of, synonymous, different words get thrown around, but that's what we're talking about. Where did you get it from? And can you clearly indicate it by your citation style, whether that be APA or MLA or Chicago or Turabian or so on and so forth? Can you fit that information in the proper format as required?
Hey, I'm wondering for the students that have joined us already, in the comments or in private chat, go ahead and give us a Y for yes if you need to use any of these citation styles right now, or an N for no, like if you're not really working on anything. Just curious if you actually are having to do this right at this moment. Because I know
put in some crazy letter.
What's that?
If you don't have either. If you put in some crazy letter,
yes or no.
If you're just here to get the credit. If you're just here to watch Jason, Ross, and Nicole, or whatever you can. We want to get some.
Okay, so Dominique is working on. Yeah, Dominique is working with it. Philip or Adam, no. Philip, yes, yeah. So so we've got a mix. Yeah, so people are actively needing to make citations at this time.
Super. And then let's drill down on that. Do we have we got any APAs in here? Any MLAs? And just to take a step back on that, you're going to have to kind of learn how to do it, I would say, just full scale, meaning who is the author? What is the date? And we'll start drilling down and getting into more specifics. What is the title of the article? But really, folks, this is pretty basic stuff when you put it a real world context. Let me give you an example. So you're going to go to college, you're going to graduate, right? You're going to get a degree. And in the mail, do you want your name to be spelled? You want your name to be spelled correctly? Do you want it to say something else? I mean, that would probably tick you off, right? So you'd probably go back and say, hey, I need a new degree because they messed up my name. So think about that in terms of your research paper, right? What if there's no name on your degree? What if you work 40 hours a week and your supervisor is going to give you your paycheck, and then I just run in there and scribble my name in and go cash it? It needs to be all right, this is a bizarre scenario, but
I like that example.
But you need to make sure that the information is proper. So again, I always go back to the mail, right? If I just put in your zip code, Ross, are you going to get that letter? If I just put zip code on the mail, the same thing. What if I just put Nicole? Are you going to get that letter? No. And what if you just, what now?
If there's checking it, I'm going to be mad.
Correct. And we were talking about checks today. I'm waiting on the check. But what if you took, it's the name, full name, and then the street number and the street address, and then the apartment number if it's there, and then the city, and then the state, and then the zip code. What if you switched all that around? Consider that. Would the recipient still get the letter? Right? So what if I started with Florida, Jason, 111, and then I put the zip code 32404, and then you can see where this is going. It's getting very frustrating. So we have some MLAs there. Ross, I think we talked about it. You're the MLA expert. Is that what we're talking about?
A lot. Yeah, I do a lot with MLA. Sure, we can work with that. So I guess the important thing to know about any citation style, since we're still kind of talking generally here, is that you'll always need the same information. Just it's probably going to look a little different with how it's formatted, like Jason was just saying there. So you're always going to have to identify the same kinds of things. So maybe that's a good place to start, is to just talk about what you're seeing when you look at a source. Perhaps I will pull up my...
Yeah, let's do it. Let's break it down and let's see if we can put ourselves in the shoes of the student and figure out kind of where we begin, because there will be a discrepancy immediately. Is there an author? Right? So, we have to kind of start from there, and let's just hit the nail on the head there. There either is an author or there isn't, but there's still an author if there isn't, right? Because there has to be a container somewhere. That information is coming from somewhere. So it's going to be the author, the date, If there's a, any time that you've ever looked on a website, there's going to be a title of the site, right? So that title should likely be in there as well. And then more follow-up information depending on if it's a publisher, and then we'll really break it down, whether it's a book or a journal and so forth.
I've always found that students tend to see, like, when you, if like journals, that like, we're not used to seeing like the volume, issue, blah, 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 blah. That can like kind of seem like gibberish. So Jason, I see you have your screen share, or like Ross, do you want to share your screen, or like, can we show an example as we're talking about it?
Sure. Like, let's say you just take any source. Like, I found this in a search really quickly. We'll go here. And let's say I found this source here.
There we go.
I got it.
There you are.
All right. We might have to zoom in a little.
I did a search.
Zoom it. There we go. Oh, wow. Look at all those authors.
Yeah, that's why I picked this one too.
Yeah, I'm frustrated already.
So I just found this in a random search I did. I searched for dogs. I literally use dogs for every example search I've ever done. And I don't even own a dog, but it's fun to type, I guess. But when you're looking at this source, it doesn't really matter what citation style I'm using, because I need to know some things right off the bat. You're always going to need to be able to find the title. And I can see right here, this is my title of this article. That's great. And you're also going to need to know who the author of that source is. Now, a lot of times you'll have a book that was written by one author, and it's pretty straightforward. This one I picked because it has so many authors. What is that? 2, 4, 6, 8 authors.
Too many to count.
Yeah. And there are ways to address that in the different citation styles, but we do want to know that there's that many authors, because, I mean, that's important. That's how many people contributed to this research, right? So now we know that. We know who the authors are. They tell me several different ways, actually. It's kind of fun. And we need to know what the publication means. If it was a book, we need to know the book's title. We might even need to know a chapter title, something like that. This happens to be from some kind of article. I'm not even exactly sure what kind yet. But when I see this, I can see, oh, right here is the name of my publication. It's just called Animals, a very creative name. But that's important to know. We need to know where I could find this article again if I was looking. And we need to know when it was published. This is about as recent as you can get. It was published a month ago, right? And then we need to know things like the volume and the issue, since we're dealing with an article. Or if you're dealing with a book, you might need the publisher information. And you need to
just jumping in really quick, Ross, because if you didn't know that, you just said, oh, Professor or Ross or Jason or Nicole, I found it in Animals Journal. Is that good enough?
Right.
Would that suffice? No, it isn't. Oh, it was the volume 12. Okay,
yeah.
Well, what else? I mean, there's 12 issues here. So you can see it's very important.
So all of that is important regardless of your citation style. Now, the way you order things is going to change, though. Every single citation style that I can think of does something unique with it, right? So I found this in a database, which one of our databases that we use, Academic Search Complete, most every database will do this for you too, but I'm going to show you this real quickly. Once you have a source, any kind of ebook or article, you'll be able to create an example citation from the database. It's going to make one for you. And if we were to scroll down here, since we're talking about MLA, let's look at an example of what this should look like. Now, I'll put an asterisk on that right now, right off the top. These are just spitting out what they were fed. So whoever put this information in there, if they did it well, the citation it creates is probably going to be pretty good. But you want to double check this against any kind of standard guide, because people make mistakes, right? I mean, I see articles all the time and books that have just things formatted wrong or weird. Like, we have to do some detective work to figure out how to undo that. But really, this is a pretty good example of what we'd be looking for, because in MLA, the first things you'll see here are the authors. And remember, we had 8 authors. So you'll always do it like this. You know, your author's last name will come first, and then their first name. And then if there were more authors, we would say, and, the next author's name. And when you write the next author's name, they write it out in just regular sentence case. You don't do the last name, first name. Now, If there are more than 2 authors, this is the way they handle it in MLA, is they use the word et al. I think in Latin it means and others. Right? So what we're saying is this author and then a bunch of other people contributed to this. And then we have our article's title, or if this was a book's chapter title, it would look very similar. And you can spot MLA citations very quickly by the capitalization. Everything in here is capitalized. We'll look at that again in a minute. Now we've got the name of this publication, where it came from, or if it was the name of the book, it would also be italicized and all. You don't actually need this. What if you want to get like into really like nerdy librarian stuff? This part of where it says animals, what that tells me is there's probably another publication somewhere called Animals, and that's just how they differentiate the two. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But then, like we saw on that previous page, right? Like we know our volume and issue number; those are important because there's 12 different volumes of this. That means this journal's probably been around for 12 years or so. And we know the date it was published. We know the page number where it at least starts.
Let me just jump in on that, Ross. Sorry. It's 1,488 pages. If you don't tell the professor which page it is and they don't look at the index and they're reading, 30 other papers, come on. It's like I'd ding you 10 points on that just for that, Because it's 1,400 pages in the book.
Yeah. Where do you start, right?
Help us out. Be specific. Help us.
Now, the professors don't go and check every one of every page sources,
But you don't know.
They don't do every one, but it's like they could do that one.
Well, I will tell you, I work with a lot of professors, and they will check some of it. If they see something in your citation that's not right, they're going to go and look it up because they want to know what the right answer is.
On the do you guys on the MLA, do you see EBSCO host? So that is a clear indicator that a professor or a librarian can go, okay, it's in there and it's good to go, right? So there are certain things, Nicole, you're right on that point. If something's going to be like, it's a clear indicator that that's where that came from, but sometimes it can be verified based on the content, meaning if you said, I got this information from this credible, reliable library database source, but your content did not match or you didn't cite, you just put that in there as like that's where I got it from, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. A prof might catch that.
Mm-hmm. I get those emails all the time from professors going like, hey, can you verify this for me?
Right. That's what we do.
And 9 times out of 10, it's just a mistake that was made. Like, they forgot to put in the parentheses there or something. But, that's the kind of things that Jason was just saying. Like, that's the kind of things they'll look for. And I'm glad you pointed out that EBSCO host thing here, because this is a sticking point with MLA. MLA says when you cite a source from one of these library databases, they want you to use the database name. Mm-hmm. And technically, if I'm getting all nerdy again here, that's not the database. Nerdy. That's the host's name. So if your professor ever says like, what's the database name and what's the host of the database's name, the EBSCO host, it happens to have the word host in the name, but that's just coincidence. They would be like
academic search complete.
Correct. Right up top there. That's right.
It's like a brand, like EBSCO host is like it's like a brand, and then every brand has multiple products. Yeah. So the databases are the products.
Correct. What did you have for dinner? Subway. Well, so what do you mean Subway? What menu? What on the menu? You can't just say the overall.
Yeah, where'd you get your article from? EBSCO host. Which EBSCO host database?
Yeah, computer. I got it from internet.
So that is one of the things that when I work with a lot of the English 1 and English 2 professors, I hear that one from them a lot is, well, what actual database did this come from? All they told me is EBSCO host. And that's a big pet peeve of mine, but it's a very simple thing to fix. Just remember that if you see that in your citation, just look up at the top of your screen and say, what database did I actually choose? Because that's what you'll want to use for your citation.
Okay.
Then the last thing
go ahead.
Is that DOI number.
DOI.
And the DOI, right? The DOI stands for the Digital Object Identifier. And not every source has one of those. If you're using MLA asks you to use the DOI. And if you're using one of our electronic tools, an ebook, a database, they're going to give you the DOI. You could dig through the source and probably find it. But then again, like not every source has a DOI. Mostly these are reserved for scientific journals. That's mostly what are assigned these DOIs. And if anything was published before like 2007, or I think it's 2008 even, DOIs didn't exist. There were no DOIs before the 2007 or something. So any article published before then just naturally won't have one because it wasn't assigned one because it didn't exist. But that's easy enough to do. If it doesn't have a DOI number, what you would want to use is this thing over here called a permalink. And this is also something to talk about later in a different time and place. But the permalink is a link that will always work. So whenever you're making a citation, if it does not have a DOI, try to find some kind of permalink, a link that will always be functional. Because that's the better thing to use there if you don't have anything else. Like you don't want to just copy and paste the link from your browser. Try to find something that you know is related to this database and will work again.
Yeah, and we talked about this in other research rallies, and we kind of drive this point home because even if you're at the point where like you maybe might use this source, a source that you're finding, copy the permalink, not the URL, and save that permalink. Like put them on a Word document or text them to yourself or whatever people do nowadays. You can always get back to that article. And like Ross is saying, you might have, if you don't have a DUI, you have to put
a DOI. We'll just move forward. We'll take that out in post.
Permalink. Okay, I'm not going to say the other
Ross,
one anymore.
can you pull the other one up? Let's take another look because I want to share some more information on the importance of the periods in the volume number and the issue number.
Yeah, let's look.
And also take a look. Can I guess maybe I'll do it jokingly. Well, Ross, can I put any there's an order there. I see top to bottom. Can I start with any order, or do I list the author who's on top there? Is that the lead author?
Well, yes.
How does that work?
So if you notice that, I think the way this officially works in most scientific publications and all is the lead researcher on the study. Now, what that means is kind of subjective sometimes, but that is the person that would be listed first in that list of authors. So sometimes if there's like a graduate assistant or something that helped with the research, but they were kind of a student assistant, they're usually found towards the bottom of that list, whereas like the chief researchers are at the top.
So, and you can also see, I'm sorry, Nicole, you just want to keep it that way. So when you see Agata there on the top, I would keep that exact same order and make sure that when you go see in the volume number and the issue number there, do you see the periods? You even see the period after the DOI. On the end there, after the 488, there's a period there that all counts. And I'm telling you, I'm trying to help you folks. At some point, there's going to be a professor and they're going to go, there's no period on the end. And that is a thing. It has happened to me. It happened to me in graduate school. And then let me just sidebar story. But this was an APA and I had to go in there and the dude had their books. So the APA, the American Psychological Association, they put out books or you can look at it online. Anyway, long story short, the professor had it and he's like, no, it is right here. Thank you for coming to my office. But and I was just like, this is a grad school, and I just took out $1 million in loans. It was awful. So I don't want anyone to experience that because I hated it, and I still have. Yeah. So anyway, don't worry.
All right, Dominique said she doesn't use the cite buttons, but now Dominique, I think you should because look, what Ross and Jason are explaining, and this is like really laying it out. It's all there, and like they're saying, double check it, but it's by and large done for you here.
Yeah, I would say this is about 99.9%, but let's scroll up to the APA and let's compare and let's take a look at what the difference is. If you want to use this one or you want to choose another one.
Well, we can look at the same one just for comparison.
Yeah.
Let's stick with it. All right, my friends. So let's take a look and see if this is correct. So I'm saying it's not correct for APA. Does anybody know why? I'll just leave it there hanging for a minute. That's it. He's highlighting it. So basically in APA, you need to just have the sentence case. So the C and canine would be capital. Everything else would be lowercase. Unless it's something that's very, very specific, I'd say such as the United States of America, something like that. The of would not be capitalized, but everything else would. This is nitty gritty. Also, do you notice too, my friends, that MLA just had the name and then et al? Do you notice here? APA has a different way. You actually can go up to, I think it's 21 or 22 names. So think about that. when you see a journal and you're like, I found it, this is the greatest article ever, there's 21 of them. Guess what, my friend? You're typing out every single one of those. And as we go to the bottom there, do you notice that there's no volume? I don't see VOL. I don't see no number. I don't see P for page number. So Ross, can you scroll down just a little bit back to the MLA?
Isn't
Where
eight the limit for APA for author? And then after that, you would do et al. You have to put them all for APA. I forgot about that.
So Nicole's bringing up a great point that is more nerdy librarian stuff, but it changes after a couple years. They recreate their rules. And so you have to get the newest edition, and then the library has to buy the new book. And it is kind of a racket, but let's do it again. So I don't see the volume number for APA. I don't see the number, right?
Yeah, right here.
Page number.
But if we scroll down, they list it in MLA.
So this, my friends, is going to be that sort of softball versus baseball difference, right? It's the same sport, but it's a little bit different. So keep in mind that you may love MLA because you're probably taking an English ENC course. But guess what? When you take a history course or something else, you're probably most likely going to have to do APA unless the professor, and again, check the syllabus, always check the syllabus. But unless the professor says, hey, you can choose whichever format you want to keep it consistent. Otherwise, you will have to kind of adjust a little bit. But guess what? It's the same guts. It's the same content.
Yeah,
you just have to, I put the period on the thing and the volume is on the thing and here's the book. Sorry. So those are some of the things too. And then if you scroll down a little bit on a page like this, I always, outside of the citation format, I like to share next to those author names, Ross, we saw there were some email addresses there. And you could scroll down and see that I'm guessing that Lupin is maybe it's in Poland. What's PL?
I was guessing Poland.
Yeah, I think it's Poland. And then we could scroll down and confirm because it should say where the institution is. And guess what it is? There we go. So that's Lublin. So you could see in the email address Lub and then Poland. And this is another way to verify and authenticate the source, meaning that this is most likely 99.999% sure a professor at the institution with, if not one, but many graduate degrees or doctorates. And so, and you could start seeing, wow, animal biotechnology, what is that? Ethnoplanet, this and all that. But again, that helps you. And the DOI is down there on the bottom as well. And Ross, are you able to copy that DOI and plug it into your web browser and see if it works?
Sure. Yeah. Let me
explain what the DOI actually does. Because it's kind of cool. It's kind of like a tattoo or like a social security number. That is the unique digital object identifier for that article. And so it's really just a bunch of numbers and you could put that into your URL if you want.
I just threw that in there and it found it immediately. It found it on an open website where I could access this too. We have it in our databases, but this is actually an open access article that I could have found potentially through a Google search. But that DOI that I got will work universally, no matter where you're aiming it. You can find it again. That's the point of it, is it so you can find it wherever it lives again.
For sure. So let's go back into the chat. How's everybody doing? Is this helpful? Give us a Y or an N or a number if it's not helpful for you. We want to make sure because you're going to be doing some citations coming up here soon. And I'm hoping that many of you are going to be transferring and going on to a 4-year university, and you're probably going to be doing some more citations there too. So the quicker, the better that you get this. Okay, great. It's helpful. Yes. Great. Okay, super. So we didn't have to really go into the APA or Chicago for that matter, because the guts, the real information, again, to go back to a letter, the first name, the last name, the street number, the street name, the city, the state, the zip code, that's all pretty much there. But think about if we're sending it, I'm speaking specifically for the United States of America at this point, but think about all over the world. It may be different, but you have to imagine how is the mail carrier in some other part of the world going to deliver the mail? And they're like, oh, we don't use names or addresses or streets or anything. Just you come find me, Ross. Just hand it to the mail carrier and they'll find me. Like, all right, give me a break.
I think, and one thing before we go on to the next segment, I do want to point out, and because I feel like this is another aspect. Jason and Ross, you talked a little bit earlier, like, of course, and you keep going back to this example, Jason, about like the mail and everything. Another part of citing is, think of it like, if you this system being in place encourages intellectual products being made, because if there's no system of like giving people due credit, then why would people be less like likely to like do stuff or like because right, it's like if you made something, you want credit for it. Everyone's like that.
And that's why I bring it back to your degree. It's like you want your name on it. It's your stamp. Hey,
if you write a paper, you're putting your name on it because you don't want another student to claim it and get the credit for it.
Correct. So that's one of the reasons that you provide the citation. You also want to continue the scholarship and the conversation. But another reason is you want to segue into the next segment. You want to avoid plagiarism, right? That's one of the major things. So I have my screen shared if you want to flip it over.
I'll pop it in.
And then let's see if I can do this presentation here. Let's see here.
I'm glad you have that up there because I was like, how do you spell that again? That's just a weird word, plagiarism. I always say it like it looks okay.
I've heard plagiarize. I've heard plague. I've heard it. So let's just take a look. So we're just going to go quickly over the definition. So I want to stress one of the words in here, and we got this from Merriam-Webster's dictionary online. The plagiarism, according to that source, is, quote, the act of using another person's words or ideas without giving credit to that person. So that's major. What does that mean of ideas? Well, if you're reading something in a book or a journal or a database or a magazine, anything like that, and you're like, oh, well, according to that, they were talking about this or whatever, and then you just let it go, what's missing from that? The citation, right? You can't just say, oh, it was in the book, or oh, where'd you feel? Oh, I read it. It was in the thing. It's like, no. If that was the idea, if E equals MC squared, right? Who came up with that? Well, you got to say, well, Einstein came up with that, or so on and so forth. So make sure that the ideas, in addition to the words, and this is from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and I encourage you to challenge me and look up plagiarism and see if you can find a different definition that doesn't use ideas. So ideas matter. You can't steal, and we're talking specifically for students here at Seminole State College, but also in the real world. But we're talking about the academic integrity and the honor code here at the college. Did you know that plagiarize, and plagiarism comes from the Latin plagiarus, which means kidnapper? So you're actually a kidnapper. You're actually taking the little baby seedling of an idea. And so I just wanted to put that in there because that kind of thrilled me when I first learned it. So here's what we're doing. You can see our little thief up there, and there's a light bulb with a brain in it. So when you are plagiarizing, you're deliberately copying the works of others, or sometimes you just, as Nicole mentioned, you might actually forget to put it in there, right? But that's still no good. That's almost like there's not really an excuse, because at the beginning of the term, when you get your syllabus, that's the contract between you and your professor. And so that is the grading criteria in the rubric to say everything needs to be cited. So it never really counts when you go, oh, I just forgot it. You give me a whoopsie. You give me a mulligan on that one, because next time when you forget, and the next time then you become the boy or girl who cried wolf. Or you recycle your own work. And Ross and I have had conversations about this. So if you've used the same paper and you're going to use that over and over and over again, and you never do any other work other than the same paper that you've turned in for 17 different assignments, friends, do you think that that's legit? Like, is that good? Do you think that should not violate any honor code? Do you think that person did any new work? Yeah, the answer is no to all that. You don't want to do that. But
Bianca said self-plagiarism.
Correct, Bianca. And so the first one is pretty clear. I think at this point in a stage in the game at college, we know the first one. But don't forget the middle and the bottom one, because you could accidentally forget to do the citation. And what happens sometimes too, my friends, is we haven't really talked about the in-text citation, but sometimes you'll leave an in-text citation and not the full reference, or vice versa. And Ross and I, we catch this all the time, because when we do one-on-one research appointments with students, we look at your citations. So keep that in mind in case you want to schedule a research appointment or consultation, however you want to describe it. And then let's move on to the next one. So what it really means is not only cheating and stealing, but you're fabricating, you're basically lying and counterfeiting and stealing. But I love the one on the bottom, literary theft. I love how that, because it's just so like regal. Like, it's such a theft of my literary.
What are you in for? Yeah. Literary theft.
Yeah, right. Don't mess with him. Don't mess with that guy.
I mean, we kid, but you know, these are all like, this is like part and parcel of your overall honor, personal honor.
Correct.
Like, if you're willing to lie or cheat, like on a paper, just because you think, oh, it's no big deal, it's just my beginning English 1 class in college, that can carry through. Like, so every time you are not honorable, you as a whole are less honorable. So think of it that way too. It all counts.
Think of it that way, and let me expound on that. Think of it when you've gone through college, gone through university, gone through master's, whatever, and you're in the real world and you have your job, okay? And then your supervisor or somebody says, hey, and you get caught cheating or stealing or whatever the words that we saw on the previous screen are. Now what are the ramifications? Are you fired? Was it that bad that you're arrested and jailed and fined? I mean, these things continue to get worse and worse. But as we zoom back into the penalties at Seminole State College, I just want you to take a look and see kind of what some of the things are. Plagiarism is a form of academic dishonesty, denial of credit, receiving a F grade, you can get kicked out of school. And what if you were trying to transfer to another college? They might say, hey, we got a hold of your transcripts, you were kicked out, we don't want you. And so that's what Nicole was saying. Now your name, your reputation, everything's tarnished, no bueno. So here's how we avoid it. By what? Giving citations, credit the proper authors, right? Use the direct quotes if you're going to use it, but make sure that if you paraphrase as well, everything on here, all these little points, they all get a citation, okay? And apply the complete citation, as we mentioned before. Don't put, just Smith. And then also avoid not only idea, but the word plagiarism as well.
Yeah, are we going to drill down into in-text citations and paraphrasing tonight? Do we have time for that?
I don't know if we have time, but we can check back into the chat and see if you folks need that. Does anybody have any questions about the in-text citations?
Yeah, because sometimes I think that can be, and once again, like your professors know. Did we lose Jason? You're.
Oh no!
Hey,
there he is.
That Wi-Fi at the apartment complex.
No, I hit the X button. It says, leave the studio, and I said, I'm out.
Rookie mistake. Your professors know you're in the process of like learning this stuff. So, I mean, and they, so if you miss the mark a little bit, like, and I think that in-text citations are kind of the next level, but I think the actual works cited page, like we've already talked about, like the citations that go on the final page of your paper, that's like the primary. That's the primary focus when you're starting out with this stuff.
And again, it can be confusing because, as Nicole was saying, so your works cited, that terminology, that's only for MLA. The same thing would be called references in your APA, but they're all the same thing. You see, one is an apple, one's an orange, but they're both fruit. You gotta just kind of see what the ingredients are. But Ross, do you have any examples of a in-text that we can look at? Because it's a little different between MLA and APA.
I was trying to find a good example of one or the other.
Okay.
There are like 150 different citation styles out there. I'm not exaggerating. And all of them are published a little differently, like we were just talking about. And every one that I'm pulling up is using a different citation style than we would probably ever deal with here.
Essentially, it's going to be the first author's name, according to them. And so if I'm using MLA, and then I would have my sentence or my quotations, and then it's the page number, right? But then in APA, it's a little bit different. You have the author's last name, and then maybe you have the year. It depends also on how you structure your sentences, right? If it's according to, or if you do your full sentence, and then at the end, it would be your author, comma, the year, comma, the page number. So I realize we're not giving you visual examples of what we're saying, but the main thing is you must indicate in the sentence or a couple of sentences, whatever you choose, whatever you've taken from the source, meaning a direct quote or a paraphrase, and there must be an indication at the end of that sentence to signify where you got that from, but that needs to be very brief. Think of it as an appetizer. And where does that point to? That points to the main course down on the bottom, which is your final works cited or references.
Yeah, I think I just have APA here, but what are MLA in-text citations?
So it's either going to be the page number, or it's going to be so it'll be like, you could say according, how do I type this really fast? To Smith, Doug's Mark. and then page number, and this is page 45. Okay, so I put that in the chat so you can kind of see it. And then there'd be a period after the 45. But that depends on if you said according to Smith. Otherwise, it would be Smith 45, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got visitors there, Nicole?
Yeah. Hi. We're on the stream.
Yeah, we're on the
We're
stream.
doing a research rally. It's Morgan.
Okay.
Everybody
Hey,
say hi,
Morgan.
Morgan.
Hey, it's our supervisor. Hey, Morgan. You need help? You need research assistance?
What's that?
So in the chat, does anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns, or any specifics? You can pop your mic off, Nicole. Guys, did you see that? Nicole got in trouble. Ooh,
What? He just said he.
No.
I didn't.
No,
he
they all
said
believe me.
stop
No,
by
they
the office
believe
on
me.
the way out.
He's like, stop by the office.
But I
That's what
think
I
he
heard.
had a
He
mask
said.
on. I think he was smiling. I don't know. Well, all right. If you never
Okay,
see
so
me
no
on another
questions,
live
no
stream,
questions,
then
you're
you'll
good.
know
And
why.
then drop in the chat too. Thank you for being so active in the chat. Tell us which class you're in right now, or which class. How did you decide to come here tonight? Was it one of your IDS courses, or did your professor tell you about it, or we just want to know kind of a promotional thing? How did you hear about this? Did you see it on Raider Connect, or did you stop by the library? Just do us a favor, give us a moment, and just drop in the chat and let us know.
And we know a lot of people are here for credit, so that's okay. We're not gonna be mad, but yeah, like, but where'd you see it? Because like we put events different places.
Oh,
So-
Bianca, you're an IDS. Did I
email.
email you? Was it from me? Yay, Bianca!
Nice.
All right,
Okay,
making
that works.
connections.
And we have Alex Gonzalez, by the way. We have a couple viewers on YouTube, and Alex is one of them, and he said he's an IDS. So
Fabulous, Alex. Who's your and tell us who your professors are, because we know all of them, most of them. We want to make sure that they know that you're here in addition to the credit, because what that does is that shows your professors that you're eager and you're willing. Yes, you have to get your 2 first-year experience credits, but also at the same time, you're engaging with us and you're getting information to help you succeed. Professor Randy, Bianca. So we just saw each other the other day then, right? Middleton, or I emailed you. Middleton, great. Jenny Middleton, Fox.
Dahlia.
Great, Mr. Randy. Yeah. This is fantastic. Thanks for that information, everyone. So I hope that this has helped. And, in your IDS courses, the citations will likely be very minimal, but I'm going to break it down for you. When you take any of your general education classes, any of the ENCs or American histories or any of those, any kind of history classes for that matter, you're going to have to do some research, and your professor is likely going to ask you to find maybe a handful of sources, and you're going to have to find that information, verify it, make sure it's credible and reliable, and then integrate that information into your paper to what? To reinforce the argument or the point of view or your thesis statement that you've created. That's why you put the information in your paper. It isn't to go, I got to find 3 sources, this one and that one, and you'll do. No, it's to go, here's my argument. This is why this is happening. According to this source, boom, they agree. And I agree with this source. And you're building your argument. It's a DJ Khaled moment. It's another one. And another one.
Jason.
And another one. I do know it. It's another one. Look, I may be 87 years old, but I'm still hip.
You still have one hip?
I do. I have one hip.
You have at least one hip.
Very
Okay.
bad. Oh,
Listen, any of else? I dropped a tiny URL up on the screen. We do appointments. You can schedule appointments, whether it's like on the phone or in person with any of our librarians. Of course, we have a couple of them on the call today, but we have a few more that are hiding behind the scenes. And we also have chat. Like, it just depends on your format you want to use, or like, how quickly, like how much time you have. I mean, don't shy away from like big or little questions on any of these ways to communicate with us, because like, we'll do what we got to do. I mean, like, literally our job is like, anyone can come. We were talking about this the other day. Anyone can come and ask us a question about anything at any time. And we're getting paid to help. And like, I mean, if a librarian ever like drops you and is like, I just can't help. I mean, tell us their name and number and their address. No, I mean, come and ask us, because that really shouldn't happen. So, I guess I'm trying to get the point out. Don't hesitate to contact us. We're here to help. We're getting paid. We're sitting here. Right. We're on the stream.
We appreciate you being here tonight, because we're trying to break down sort of the stigmas and stereotypes of college libraries and librarians, and it's unapproachable. And I want help, but I'm too shy or whatever to ask. No, you can ask us, and we try to make multiple opportunities for you to ask. You can email us. You can send us an anonymous chat. And many of you are on the call tonight, and you don't need your camera on or whatever. We just want to make sure that you're getting your credit and that you're here to succeed. We want to help you succeed at the college, and that's why we're here. So I really hope that resonates with you, and I appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah.
So, did we drop the link in the chat for the credit?
No, I got it. Oh, do you have it handy? Because
I got it handy.
Look at that. Now, can somebody memorize that and state it back to me? That is the longest link in the history of links.
Cite that one.
I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, cite that.
Basically, anyone on the call or anyone in the stream, if you click on that link that's in private chat, it's going to mark you as attended. Now, Alex Gonzalez is watching. Alex, did you I can't pop that link in the YouTube live chat because then everyone in the whole world can get credit.
We'll get a DM going.
I was gonna look and see. Alex, did you RSVP in Raider Connect?
Or you can send it to there.
Yeah, because I can mark you. I was just gonna look real quick, and that's okay. And that's
if you've clicked on the link, you should be good to go. It should just immediately give you verified. The page will just refresh. And so if you got your credit and you're good and you want to bounce, that's totally fine. We look forward to seeing you at the library.
I got him, Alex.
Perfect.
I'm gonna mark you. I can mark your attendance because I found you in the RSVP, Alex. So I can't send you that link that we private chatted to people in the stream, but I am going to mark you as attended in Raider Connect. So you should get your credit. And if there's any problem, let me know. But I'll double check it. It usually is not a problem.
Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Kayana. We see you. Hi, Bianca. Rock and roll. Nice to see you and meet you again. Okay. Anybody else?
Rocks.
Daryl. Okay, super.
Rocks.
Super. Alex. Okay, great.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
That you're seen and heard. We see you. We want to make sure that you got your help there. Carter. Cool. Got you. Anybody else?
Philip.
All right, we'll get you. You stuck around this long. Okay. If you guys need any help, come back to the library. There's the link on the
he got kicked out.
He'll probably try.
I know. I just want to be able to mark him. Okay. So.
I appreciate you guys watching tonight. Hopefully this has been helpful. This has been our citation special. We went over MLA. We compared it with APA, and we talked a lot about the minutia of make sure that you're very detail oriented on these citations, and make sure that you evaluate all the sources all the time, no matter what, because you're looking for that credible, reliable, trustworthy information that you're putting into your paper to create new knowledge that has never been created before. So make it your song, make it your poem, make it your painting, make it your salute to your personal research. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. And I'm Information Jason, and we have Nicole from the library, and I don't know where Ross went, but I'm sure he'll say goodbye anyway. wherever he went, I don't know. He just peaced out. So this has been a great edition of Research Rally, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.